The spaceport of New Terra was always alive with noise, movement, and the constant hum of ships preparing for departure. People of every shape, size, and species rushed along the wide corridors, some dragging luggage, some gesturing in heated debates, and others just wandering, lost in thought. Captain Elias Kane navigated the crowd carefully, his hands stuffed into the pockets of his worn leather jacket, scanning the terminals for his departure gate. His ship, the Star Raptor, was docked at the far end of the sprawling port, and he didn't have time to waste. Despite the chaos, Elias' mind wandered, as it often did, to the small details of human life that made him feel alive. The smell of coffee from a nearby cafe, the laughter of children chasing each other across the concourse, and the low hum of engines blending with voices. Speaking in dozens of languages. Space travel was his life, but it was moments like these, brief as they were, that reminded him why humans had a special place in the galaxy. Then he saw her. She was standing near a docking bay, her figure tall and graceful, with skin that shimmered faintly in shades of blue and silver. Her eyes glowed like liquid amber, shifting slightly with every movement, and her hair seemed to float as if defying gravity. Elias froze as though the world had paused around him. Every other noise, every other movement blurred into a background hum. He had never seen anything like her, and yet, in some inexplicable way, he felt he knew her. Lyra noticed him immediately. It wasn't difficult. Her species had evolved to sense the faintest ripples of emotion in others, an ability humans had long considered impossible. Elias' fascination radiated from him like heat from a furnace, and she could feel it as clearly as if it were her own heartbeat. She tilted her head slightly, her lips curving into a faint, amused smile. There was something honest and raw in his gaze, and it intrigued her. Most humans didn't hide their feelings well, but few were so transparent that she could feel them from across a crowded spaceport. Elias, unaware that he was broadcasting his emotions so openly, adjusted his jacket and tried to shake the moment off. He reminded himself that he was a professional, that he had a schedule to keep, and that he couldn't afford to get distracted. Yet every time he looked back at her, a pull tugged at his chest that he could not explain. It was not just attraction. It was a deep, instinctual recognition, a feeling that they were somehow connected, even across the gulf of their species. As if sensing his hesitation, Lyra stepped closer, her movements smooth and deliberate. The shimmer of her skin changed subtly, reflecting the light of the spaceport in a way that made her appear almost otherworldly. She studied him with eyes that seemed to look not just at him, but into him. Elias swallowed hard. He had faced hostile alien species, navigated asteroid fields, and survived dangerous negotiations, yet this simple look made him feel vulnerable in a way he had never experienced. Their first words came unexpectedly, not from him but from her. Her voice was melodic, carrying a tone of curiosity and amusement that drew attention without effort. "You are fascinated," she said softly, her accent carrying the rhythm of a language he could barely place. "You cannot hide it," Elias blinked, caught off guard. I suppose I am," he admitted, feeling a flush of embarrassment. You're different." His words sounded awkward, even to his own ears. He cursed himself silently for sounding so clumsy. Lyra tilted her head, her eyes gleaming. "Different is interesting," she said. "I can feel your attention. It is honest." Her words, simple as they were, had a surprising effect on him. Most humans would have tried to play it cool, hide their emotions, or laugh off the comment. Elias could not. He had spent his life being straightforward, relying on instinct and honesty, especially in situations of risk or negotiation. And now, standing before an alien woman who could sense every ripple of his heart, he realized that honesty was all he had. The announcement for his ship's departure echoed through the concourse. People shifted, forming lines and making their way toward the gates. Elias knew he should move, yet he found himself lingering. Lyra's presence was magnetic, and he felt a strange certainty that this encounter was not random. Something about the way she watched him, with calm curiosity rather than judgment, made him feel both exposed and seen in a way no human ever had. He finally gathered the courage to approach. "I'm Elias Kane," he said, extending a hand. It felt absurd to offer a handshake to someone so alien, but it was a gesture rooted in habit, in human tradition. Lyra's fingers, delicate yet strong, brushed against his. "Lyra," she replied. The sound of her name seemed to resonate, echoing in his mind as if it were both music and memory. "You are human." Yes, Elias said, a hint of a smile tugging at his lips. That's me, I guess you can tell. I can feel much more than that, she said, her eyes glinting with amusement. You feel something for me from the moment you saw me. He hesitated, then nodded, unable to deny it. I do. She studied him quietly for a moment, and for the first time, Elias felt the weight of alien perception. Lyra was not impressed by status, power, or skill. She was intrigued by something more subtle, something human, honesty, emotion, and the uncalculated spark that humans carried within. He realized then that she might be the first being in the galaxy to recognize him without pretense, to see him as he was. The line for boarding their respective ships began to move, and Elias reluctantly started toward the gate. Lyra's gaze followed him. You are courageous, she said quietly, almost to herself, or perhaps reckless. Humans are unpredictable. Elias glanced back. Unpredictable can be useful sometimes, he said with a half-smile, feeling an unusual confidence in her presence. Their ships were scheduled to depart for the same destination, a frontier planet at the edge of explored space. Fate, it seemed, had intertwined their paths. Over the next few hours, as he boarded the Star Raptor, Elias found himself glancing repeatedly toward Lyra, who had been assigned to another vessel but would travel in parallel. Every look exchanged felt like a secret conversation, a silent acknowledgement of the strange pull that had begun between them. Once aboard, Elias settled into his cabin, but sleep did not come easily. His thoughts wandered endlessly, replaying her words, the shimmer of her skin, the depth in her eyes. He wondered what it would be like to speak to her, to learn the stories she carried, to understand the world from her perspective. Humans were explorers by nature, and the possibility of discovering another sentient being who could sense the truth of his emotions filled him with both excitement and anxiety. Meanwhile, Lyra reflected on the human in her own way. His honesty, the warmth in his presence, and the unfiltered emotion that radiated from him were rare in a galaxy where beings often masked their thoughts and feelings for survival or diplomacy. She had observed countless species, but humans were unique in their capacity for instinct, courage, and sincerity. Elias was a perfect example, fascinating, flawed, and entirely genuine. The journey to the frontier planet took several days. During this time, both Elias and Lyra faced the humdrum routines of space travel. Navigation drills, maintenance checks, and briefings on the mission that awaited them. Yet despite the structured environment, the anticipation of their eventual meeting kept Elias alert and engaged. Every scan from his ship's sensors, every communication ping, seemed secondary to the quiet excitement of encountering her again. When the ships finally approached the edge of the uncharted system, the gravity of the mission became apparent. The frontier planet was known for its harsh environment, dangerous terrain, and unusual energy readings. Humans and aliens alike had attempted exploration before, but few had returned with meaningful data. Elias knew that survival would require teamwork, ingenuity, and adaptability, the very qualities humans often excelled at, even in the most unexpected situations. As the docking sequences began, Elias caught sight of Lyra once more. Their ships aligned at a central hub on the planet's orbital station, allowing for immediate contact. When she stepped onto the platform, the same calm curiosity in her eyes met his gaze. She smiled slightly, as if to say that she had been waiting for this moment as much as he had. No words were needed. The understanding was mutual. Despite differences in species, culture, and perception, something had begun between them, an unspoken recognition of connection, a spark that would grow as they faced the challenges of the frontier planet together. For Elias, the certainty of his feelings remained, and for Lyra, the fascination with this human who dared to feel so openly was only beginning. As the shuttle doors closed behind them, taking them toward the unknown surface, both knew that their journey was no longer just about exploration. It was about discovery in every sense of the planet, of danger, and most of all, of each other. The stars stretched endlessly outside the viewport, distant and silent, but within the small cabin where human and alien would soon work side by side, the universe felt full of possibilities, mysteries, and a strange, undeniable warmth that neither had anticipated. For the first time, Elias felt that being human was enough, perhaps more than enough, to reach across species and touch another soul. And Lyra, sensing the truth of his heart, could not help but wonder if she would ever encounter another being so completely alive, so unpredictably and beautifully human. The shuttle touched down on the rocky surface of Vera 9 with a low, vibrating hum that rattled Elia's chest. Dust and small stones swirled around the landing bay, caught in the artificial gravity of the platform. Outside the viewport, jagged mountains loomed, their peaks disappearing into swirling clouds tinged with the faint green glow of the planet's unique atmosphere. Elias stepped onto the surface first, the familiar crunch of alien soil beneath his boots grounding him in reality. This was what he lived for, the unknown, the challenge, and the chance to prove human ingenuity in places no one had ever dared to tread. But even as he adjusted his gear, his eyes scanned the crowd for Lyra. She was there, standing a few meters away, her skin shimmering faintly in the dim light. The glow seemed to pulse with the rhythm of her movement, shifting colors as if responding to the planet itself. Lyra's gaze met his again, calm and assessing. Elias felt a strange confidence in her attention, a feeling he had not experienced with anyone, human or alien. She approached him slowly, her steps deliberate, each movement precise yet fluid. "The atmosphere is thin here," she said, her voice carrying over the hum of machinery. "You must conserve your oxygen." Elias nodded. "Thanks for the reminder," he said, adjusting his helmet. "I've survived worse." Lyra raised an eyebrow. "That may be true. But survival does not guarantee success. You humans rely too much on instinct. And you aliens rely too much on logic," Elias replied with a grin, unable to resist teasing her. She did not smile, but the faint tilt of her head suggested amusement. "Instinct and logic can complement each other. Perhaps that is why we are paired." Their team had been assigned to investigate unusual energy readings detected deep beneath the planet's surface. Geological anomalies, strange electromagnetic pulses, and faint traces of organic life suggested something significant awaited them underground. Elias was eager. Humans excelled at improvisation, thinking on the fly, and taking risks that more cautious species avoided. His instincts often saved lives, and he knew that this mission would test every ounce of that skill. The group gathered at the shuttle bay, 3 humans, 2 aliens, and Lyra. They checked their gear, reviewed the mission plan, and prepared for the descent into the canyon that led to the subterranean network. As they approached the edge, the sheer cliffs rose like walls of stone, casting long shadows in the dim light. A narrow path wound down into the canyon floor, and the team began the careful trek, ropes and climbing gear at the ready. Elias stayed close to Lyra, partly out of habit, partly because he wanted to observe her approach to danger. She moved with quiet confidence, analyzing every rock, every shadow, as though she were calculating the probability of failure at each step. Elias, in contrast, trusted his senses, feeling the terrain underfoot, adjusting his steps instinctively, and spotting dangers that a strictly logical mind might overlook. They reached the canyon floor as the sun dipped behind jagged peaks, casting long shadows that twisted across the rocky ground. The energy readings intensified, showing on their handheld scanners as small pulses that flickered in irregular patterns. "It's coming from below," Lyra noted. Her voice was calm but precise. "The readings are stronger the deeper we go. The underground network is unstable." Elias glanced at the narrow cave entrance at the base of the cliff. "Unstable doesn't mean impossible," he said. "We just need to be careful and think fast if something goes wrong." The team descended, carefully lowering themselves into the cave system. The temperature dropped sharply, and the air carried a faint metallic tang. Elias noticed how Lyra moved ahead, her senses detecting minor shifts in the walls, subtle vibrations in the rock that humans would not notice. She paused occasionally, allowing him to catch up, as if acknowledging his presence without words. After several hours, they entered a massive cavern illuminated by a faint, bioluminescent glow. The walls pulsed with energy as though alive. Elias' heart raced. He had seen many alien landscapes, but this was different. The energy was not just scientific data, it felt conscious, like something aware of their presence. "Stay alert," Lyra instructed. "This energy is reactive, it may respond to us." Elias nodded. He reached for his scanner, moving slowly. The device beeped erratically, detecting fluctuations in the energy field. "It's like it's scanning us," he whispered. "Or studying us." The alien team members murmured among themselves, cautious and precise. Humans thrived on uncertainty, but Lyra's species analyzed risk meticulously before acting. She turned to Elias, her eyes reflecting the pulsating light. "You are calm," she observed. "Despite the unknown, you do not hesitate. That is unusual." "I'm used to it," Elias said simply. "Humans adapt. We survive by thinking fast and trusting our instincts." Lyra studied him silently. Elias felt an odd sense of pride, not for himself, but for his species. Humans were often underestimated, yet here he was, proving that courage, intuition, and emotion could be as valuable as logic and planning. Suddenly, the cavern shook violently. Rocks fell from the ceiling, and a deep rumbling echoed through the tunnel. Elias caught the nearest teammate by the arm, pulling them to safety. Lyra reacted instantly, her body moving with precision, guiding the group through a safer path. Despite the chaos, Elias noticed how seamlessly they complemented each other. Instinct and logic, human and alien, working together. As the tremors subsided, they reached a massive chamber where the energy readings peaked. Strange crystals jutted from the walls, glowing with an otherworldly light. The pulses intensified as they approached, reacting to their presence. "It's alive," Elias whispered, awe in his voice. "Not alive in the way we understand, but aware." Lyra nodded. "It reacts to emotion and intent. Your species emits strong emotional signals. Perhaps that is why it responds to you." Elias' heart skipped a beat. The energy was not only alive, but seemed drawn to him, to humans. It was a thrilling, humbling realization. Humanity's qualities, courage, curiosity, honesty, were recognized by something alien, something far beyond their understanding. The team began collecting samples, recording data, and analyzing the energy patterns. Elias moved carefully, aware of the delicate balance in the chamber. Lyra worked alongside him, her movements precise, yet she occasionally glanced at him with something unspoken, a hint of admiration, curiosity, and perhaps even affection. Hours passed, and the team had gathered enough information to begin the ascent. But just as they prepared to leave, the chamber shook again, more violently this time. A portion of the ceiling collapsed, blocking the exit. Panic rippled through the team. Elias took a deep breath, assessing the situation. "We need to find another way out," he said firmly. "Stay calm, we'll get through this together." Lyra's eyes met his, and for a moment words were unnecessary. She trusted his judgment, and he trusted her guidance. They worked as a team, navigating through narrow tunnels, using ropes and climbing gear, and carefully avoiding unstable sections of rock. At one point, a massive rock fell directly in their path. Elias reacted instinctively, pushing a teammate out of harm's way and using his strength to shift the boulder just enough for them to pass. Lyra moved with flawless timing, guiding the team through the tight spaces, her skin pulsing faintly with energy as if responding to the tension. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, they emerged from the cave into the open air. Dust clung to their suits, and exhaustion weighed on them, but the relief was palpable. The team cheered softly, their shared triumph creating a sense of camaraderie that transcended species. Elias turned to Lyra, noticing the faint smile on her lips. "You were amazing down there," he said, genuinely impressed. "You were not bad yourself," she replied, her voice calm but carrying a hint of warmth. "Humans surprise me. You adapt. You survive when others might fail." Elias felt a surge of pride, not for himself alone, but for humanity. This was the essence of being human: courage, quick thinking, resilience, and the willingness to act even when the outcome was uncertain. He realized that Lyra's admiration was not just personal. It was recognition of the human spirit itself. As they prepared to return to the orbital station, Elias and Lyra walked side by side, silently acknowledging the bond that had grown in the depths of the alien caves. Words were unnecessary. Their shared experience had created an understanding that went beyond language. Humans were unpredictable, emotional, and instinct-driven, but that very nature made them capable of extraordinary feats. Lyra, who had always observed humans with curiosity, now saw firsthand why they were remarkable. Back on the station, the team debriefed and submitted their findings. The data they collected promised new insights into the energy phenomena and the potential for further exploration. Elias sat quietly afterward, reflecting on the events. He felt exhausted but alive, exhilarated by the danger, the discovery, and the undeniable connection with Lyra. She approached him quietly, standing just a few feet away. Her gaze was steady, her glowing eyes soft yet piercing. You have a unique quality, she said. Humans do not always recognize it in themselves, but it is evident to others. Courage, adaptability, and honesty. Elias smiled, feeling a warmth in his chest. I think we make a good team, he said. Lyra's lips curved slightly, a rare display of emotion for her species. Yes. Perhaps more than a team. The words lingered between them, unspoken yet understood. They were no longer just colleagues or explorers. They were partners in a journey that would test their limits, both physically and emotionally. Humanity had proven itself once again, not just through skill or technology, but through qualities that no alien intelligence could replicate. As the station prepared for the next mission, Elias felt a quiet determination. The frontier was dangerous, unknown, and unpredictable, but humans thrived in such conditions. And with Lyra at his side, he felt ready for anything. For the first time, he realized that his feelings for her were not a distraction. They were part of what made him human. Courage, emotion, and the willingness to act in the face of uncertainty. These traits had carried him through the mission, and they would guide him forward wherever the universe might lead. And Lyra, sensing the strength and depth of his heart, could not help but wonder if humanity's unpredictability, its raw honesty and resilience, would ultimately change her perception of the galaxy forever. The orbital station above Vera 9 was quiet compared to the chaos on the planet below. Sensors hummed softly, and the crew moved through the corridors with efficiency, analyzing data collected from the subterranean energy network. For Elias Kane, the stillness was unusual. He had spent days in the planet's caves, adrenaline pumping, instincts tested, and now in the calm of the station, he could feel the exhaustion settle in his bones. Yet his mind refused to rest. Lyra's presence lingered like a faint glow in the corner of his awareness, persistent and compelling. Lyra moved gracefully down the corridor, her steps silent on the metallic floor. Her eyes, amber and liquid, reflected the soft lights of the station. She had observed Elias throughout the mission, noting the subtle ways he thought, adapted, and instinctively protected those around him. It was not only his courage that intrigued her, but the very essence of humanity he carried: compassion, unpredictability, and a willingness to face danger without calculation. Humans were chaotic, yet beautiful in their spontaneity, and Elias embodied that perfectly. As she approached him, Elias turned, offering a small smile. "We survived," he said simply. It was a statement, but it also carried relief, pride, and an unspoken acknowledgement of the trials they had endured together. Lyra's gaze held his. "Yes," she replied. "Because of you and because of your species. Your instincts, your decisions, they saved lives today. Predictable logic alone would not have worked." Elias felt a flush of pride, not for himself alone, but for humanity. Humans often thrived where others failed, not because they were stronger or smarter, but because they were adaptable, daring, and capable of acts of courage that no protocol could predict. "We make a good team," he said, his voice calm yet carrying a quiet intensity. She tilted her head, the faintest smile tugging at her lips. "More than a team," she said softly. There was something in her tone, a recognition, perhaps, of a connection deeper than professional respect. The next several days were spent analyzing data, transmitting findings to the central command, and preparing for the next stage of the mission. The energy network beneath Vera 9 had shown signs of intelligent activity, a subtle awareness that suggested the planet itself was not merely alive, but sentient in some way. Elias and Lyra worked closely, combining human intuition and alien precision to decode the signals and map the underground structures. During long hours of study, they found themselves talking in moments of quiet. Elias shared stories of human life, childhood memories, daring missions, and simple pleasures like the taste of coffee in the morning. Lyra, in turn, spoke of her people, their history, and the ways they perceived the universe differently from humans. Elias listened, fascinated by her perspective, and Lyra found herself intrigued by his honesty and the warmth that humans carried, even under stress. One evening, as the station orbited the planet in silence, Elias and Lyra stood at the observation deck, staring at the swirling clouds and jagged mountains below. "Do you ever wonder why humans are different?" Elias asked. His voice was quiet, reflective. Lyra's eyes glimmered. "I have observed many species," she said. "But humans, you are unpredictable, emotional, and yet capable of clarity and bravery in ways others are not. You feel, and because you feel, you act in ways that are extraordinary. Elias smiled, feeling a warmth in his chest. I think it's what keeps us alive, and sometimes it brings us moments like this. He looked at her, unsure if she would understand the depth of his meaning. Lyra understood. I noticed your feelings from the first moment, she admitted. Your heart, it is transparent and it is honest. That is rare. Elias' breath caught. I felt the same way, he said. Even when I didn't know what it meant, I knew somehow that meeting you was important. A silence settled between them, filled with understanding, curiosity, and a sense of something new forming. Neither of them had expected this connection, yet it was undeniable. They were from different worlds, yet the bond they had formed in danger and discovery was real. Their peace was soon interrupted by a transmission from the planetary sensors. The energy readings beneath Vera 9 had spiked dramatically, far beyond what they had seen before. The signals were no longer subtle pulses. They were coordinated, almost communicative. Something was stirring below, something aware and perhaps aware of them. Elias felt a familiar thrill of anticipation mixed with caution. We need to go back, he said. Whatever is happening underground is changing, and we can't ignore it. Lyra nodded, her calm demeanor steady, though her eyes reflected a hint of curiosity and concern. It is responding to you, she said quietly, to humans. Elias swallowed, understanding the implication. Humanity's traits, the instincts, the courage, the emotional transparency were being recognized by something alien and powerful. This was both frightening and exhilarating. Then we go together, he said. We face it together. The descent into the caves was faster this time, the team moving with urgency and purpose. The walls glowed faintly with energy, pulsing rhythmically as they approached the deeper chambers. The air was charged, static and alive, and Elias felt it resonate within him, as if the planet itself were aware of his presence and evaluating him. They reached the central chamber, where the energy was most concentrated. Massive crystalline structures jutted from the walls and ceiling, shimmering with light that seemed to respond to thought and emotion. Elias could feel the energy vibrating in tune with his heartbeat. The experience was overwhelming, yet exhilarating. Lyra moved beside him, studying the crystals with precision. It senses your intentions, she said. Your thoughts, your courage, your honesty, it recognizes the qualities of your species. Perhaps it respects them. Elias looked around in awe. We're being observed, he said softly, by something alive and intelligent, and it doesn't just see us, it understands us. For hours, they interacted with the energy, experimenting cautiously, guiding it with human intuition and Lyra's analytical guidance. Each movement of their hands, each decision, influenced the patterns of light and energy in subtle ways. The experience was both scientific and spiritual, a reminder that humans were capable of more than just survival. They could connect, inspire, and even communicate in ways no other species could. As the session continued, Elias found himself standing closer to Lyra than necessary. Her presence, her calm focus, and the subtle warmth of her aura drew him in. He realized that he cared for her not just as a companion, but as someone whose presence made him feel complete, understood, and inspired. Lyra glanced at him briefly, sensing his thoughts and emotions as clearly as he could sense the energy around them. You care, she said quietly, more than most humans would admit. I do, Elias admitted. I don't know why exactly, but from the moment I met you, I felt it. And it hasn't gone away. For the first time, Lyra allowed herself a full smile. And I find it fascinating. Your emotions, your instincts, they are powerful. I have never seen anything like it. The energy in the chamber pulsed more brightly, almost as if acknowledging the connection between them. Elias and Lyra shared a silent understanding. Humanity's strength was not in technology alone, not in logic or calculation, but in the courage to act, the honesty to feel, and the willingness to risk for others. These traits had won the admiration of an alien intelligence, proving once more that humans were exceptional. As they prepared to leave the chamber, a final tremor shook the cavern. A passage opened where none had existed before, revealing a natural exit that led to a cliffside overlooking a vast, glowing valley. The team carefully made their way out, standing together in awe of the landscape. The valley below shimmered with energy, a breathtaking display of light, life, and alien intelligence. Elias turned to Lyra, his chest swelling with pride and emotion. We did it, he said softly. We survived, we discovered, and we connected. Lyra's eyes met his, her glowing skin reflecting the alien light around them. "Yes," she said, "and it is because of you and your species. Humanity is remarkable." The words touched Elias in a way no praise had ever done. It was not just recognition of his actions, but acknowledgement of what humans could achieve when they relied on their instincts, courage, and honesty. Lyra's respect and admiration were proof that humanity had a place in the galaxy far beyond what anyone had expected. Back on the orbital station, the team debriefed once more. Their findings promised new understanding of the energy networks, and recommendations for further study would be submitted to Central Command. Elias felt a quiet satisfaction, knowing that the mission had succeeded, not only because of skill or technology, but because of human qualities that no other species could replicate. Lyra approached him one last time before returning to her quarters. "I sensed it from the beginning," she said, her voice soft. "Your feelings, your honesty, your courage, it was impossible to ignore, and now I understand why humans are extraordinary." Elias smiled, feeling an unfamiliar but welcome warmth in his chest. "And I understand why I care for you," he said, his voice steady despite the intensity of the moment. She looked at him, a faint glow in her eyes. "Care and perhaps more," she said, leaving the words open, unspoken, yet understood. The two of them stood together, looking out at the stars beyond the station. The galaxy was vast, full of mysteries, dangers, and unknown civilizations, yet in that moment, Elias felt a profound certainty. Humanity was capable of remarkable things, and the bond he shared with Lyra was proof that courage, honesty, and emotional truth could transcend species and change the way the universe viewed them. As the orbital station rotated slowly above Vera 9, Elias reached out, and Lyra allowed her hand to brush against his. It was a small gesture, yet it carried the weight of connection, understanding, and hope. For the first time in his life, Elias felt that being human was enough, not just enough, but extraordinary. Lyra's presence beside him, her recognition of his qualities, and the mutual respect they had built through danger and discovery created something neither of them had expected. A bridge between species, a bond formed through honesty, courage, and the undeniable spark of life that humans carried into the galaxy. In the quiet of the observation deck, Elias whispered, "We've only just begun." Lyra's glowing eyes met his, a soft smile gracing her lips. "Yes, together we will see where humanity can reach." The stars outside stretched endlessly, silent witnesses to a connection that was uniquely human and entirely real. And in that vast, infinite galaxy, humanity had proven once again that courage, emotion, and honesty could inspire awe, even in the hearts of alien beings. For Elias Kane, the frontier had never felt so alive, so full of possibility, and so deeply human. And for Lyra, the human woman she had once simply observed had become something extraordinary, someone who had touched her perception of life itself. Together, they stepped forward into the unknown, ready for the adventures, dangers, and discoveries that awaited them, knowing that their bond, and humanity itself, was a force that could shape the galaxy in ways few could imagine.